Welcome to the Educational Leadership Podcast with Principal JL, the place where school leaders recharge, rethink, and remember their purpose. If you're a superintendent, assistant superintendent, a principal, assistant principal, dean of students, teacher leader, or a future administrator, you're in the right place. Here we mix practical strategies with real conversations, a little wit, and a whole lot of purpose. Because leadership isn't about the title on your badge, it's the influence you carry every single day with your teachers, staff, students, and families. Our mission is simple: to inform, inspire, and to help you lead with purpose. To give you tools that actually work, stories that spark reflection, and ideas you can use the minute an episode ends. So grab that caffeinated drink, a notebook, and your growth mindset, and get ready to level up your leadership one episode at a time. Because around here, we don't aim for perfect. We aim to be 1% better every single day. Now let's get to the episode. Have you ever had conversations with other educators from other districts around the state, or maybe around your area, or even around the nation? Well, this episode is inspired by those type of conversations where you just talk about different topics and the things you're seeing, the struggles you're having, and how you do things, and how you're learning from other people and what they do things, and taking those golden nuggets back to your school to figure out how you can apply the things that you have learned. Now, this episode is inspired by those type of conversations. This is the first episode that I've ever done with a co-host. And my co-host's name is Robert Hinchliffe. And if you heard of him before, you have. He's been on my episode in the past talking about his journey. But him and I just have this, connection to where we just can take a topic and we can just riff on it for a while. And this episode is unscripted. We didn't create a script. We just had some topics. We just had a conversation about the things we're seeing in our schools, and just sharing our perspectives on things. So I want you guys to be able to also, in these episodes, is to be a part of them. If there are topics that you would like Robert and I to discuss and just to give our perspectives on, I really encourage you to write into the show. You can email me at the.principal.jl@gmail.com. There's also a little link said send text link in the show notes that you can hit, and it will send me your text or your questions that you would like. And I'd like to give you a shout out. So give me your name, where you're from, and I'd love to shout that out. And Robert and I will discuss the questions that you guys may have. And so I want to really put that out there. I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. So sit back and relax as Robert and I discuss various topics about educational leadership. Now let's get to the conversation. All right, everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Educational Leadership Podcast. Now, I'm excited because this is the first episode that I'm going to have a co-host. And my co-host is Robert Hinchliffe.
Robert? No pressure.
What's that? No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure, Robert. So we're going to, basically, the idea of this is we got to talking, and we are going to just give perspectives. Robert's going to give his perspective. And if you follow him on TikTok, you know he likes to give his perspectives about a lot of things. So I would urge you to follow him and follow his work as well. But he'll talk about elementary. I could talk about secondary. He could talk about the urban, being in Las Vegas. I'm in South Central Hastings, Nebraska. I talk about, I'm like a suburbia, but I'm more rural than I am anything when it comes down to it. Even though I live in a town about 25,000, it's still considered rural out here in Nebraska. So we could talk about a lot of things. And so, Robert, some things that have been on my mind is just hiring right now. Like, for me, it's just been crazy. Like, I hired my first person in December. I hired some more in January. I've hired every month, and I'm in April. And right now I'm sitting about 13 new hires for next year at my high school.
and I have about 75 teachers. So I'm going to bring 13 new people in to fill some roles. Now, I did have one position that I made an internal move because it was just going to work out and fit. But I was able to open up that job so I can actually have more candidates to hire in that position as well. But that took me 4 to 6 days just to convince my HR director just to please let me do this. And once I got him on board and he approved it, we rocked and roll, and it's worked out really well for us. I've just noticed like we have, it sounds like 13 new hires for me. That's a lot, but at the same time, a lot of these are for really good reasons. I mean, I had to hire a new AD because my AD's retiring. I had to hire, a new special education teacher because she's retiring. I had some people just move on to another position because it was closer to family. Or, I had one person that has a girlfriend that lives in, Omaha, and they figured that was, better to get closer to them than them to come here. So just a lot of movement, a lot of things that just happen that we just have to deal with. And it's almost like, what's going to happen this week? What new hire am I going to have to come up with, or, and put out a post about and go through that. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, man, where does it stop? Even today, I was trying to hire a new FCS teacher. Tomorrow I'm going to try to hire a Spanish teacher. Like, I'm interviewing weekly. And on top of that, I finished up my teacher evaluations doing all that too. So, I mean, it's just a busy time of the year. So how's it going for you, Robert, when it comes to hiring people, internal training? How's that look? You're in Vegas.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Like, it's April 14th when we're recording this, and the busy season is upon us. Not only do we have evaluations, we also have, right now we're doing state testing, and last week we had staff development day. But through all that, we have hiring. So for us, it's a little bit different. Elementary, I've always wondered in high school, you have to find people with certain licenses, such as the ability to speak Spanish and teach Spanish, right? Elementary is a little bit different. They either have a K2 license or a K8. Is really how it lands out here in Vegas, unless you need a special endorsement for special ed or something of that nature. For me, it's been interesting this year. Really, this is kind of a year that we decided to shake some things up. So you sound like you have an HR director that says, go ahead and shake things up. Here, I have the ability to shake things up without getting anybody's approval. Essentially, all I have to do is make sure someone has a position that falls under their endorsement or their licensure. So if I want to move someone from kindergarten to 5th grade, I can do that without anybody approving it of any way, shape, or form. This year, the AP and I, Shauna, we decided it was a time to shake things up a little bit. So we made 15 internal transfers between 2nd and 5th grade. And it went over like a turd in a punch bowl. I'm not going to lie, because you're messing with people's lives. And so-and-so has taught 2nd grade for, 3 years or whatever. And now they're in 3rd grade, or so-and-so's taught 5th grade. Now you're moving to 2nd grade. But ultimately, within all that movement, and like you, I'm sure, it's to make the school better as a team and as a whole. You don't take these decisions lightly. You're trying to make better teams in grade levels. You're trying to, get people that can work together or people that have expertise. You need a 4th grade teacher. Well, this lady's taught 4th grade for many years. She can go there. For me, it's just really a big slide puzzle is really what it comes down to. Just trying to slide people into positions and teams and grade levels that will work together and maximize the talents and the outcomes for the students. So for us, I lost one young lady wanted to teach middle school. So this is the year she transferred to middle school, which is fine. For me, I don't really feel bad about that. The only time I get mad when people transfer is if they transfer to another elementary school. Because again, I feel like that's kind of a referendum upon myself as a leader. That never happens. So for me, we lost one person to middle school, but then we had to gain people. We gained a 5th, we gained a 4th. We were given another self-contained program, which is students with autism in 3rd through 5th. So I had to find a teacher for that. I had to find another general resource teacher. And then I needed another 5th grade teacher to replace the one we lost. So for me, I've only had to find 5 people. And to be honest, in Vegas, I'm pretty lucky because there are so many teachers that have to transfer or want to transfer. So I have plenty of people to kind of sift through and find who I want. And all I really need, if they're elementary, they're pretty much good to go because of their licensure. So for me, things are a lot easier than it sounds like in rural Nebraska in secondary.
Yeah, like okay, so I'm kind of curious about that. So when you are moving people around, shifting around, and you're doing internal transfers, are you looking just internally in your district, or is that internally in your building? Because what I'm thinking about is, are your focus is I'm going to bring people within the system that's already in the system, or when do you like bring people from the outside of your district, and like how does that look? Because I'm really curious.
Yeah.
Because like for me, I'm content based driven. Grade levels, nope, don't worry about it. We're
Yeah.
content driven, so we're talking about what content you teach and what is your certification or your endorsement in those areas. So I have to make sure those things fit. And then I have to check the Nebraska state licensing website and I look up their name and make sure they have what I need. But also I've done this to where you may not have the endorsement I need, but you're a math teacher. But guess what? You can take this thing called the Praxis and get endorsed over the summer. And if you want this job, I would love to give it to you if you take this test, get endorsed, so I can use you how I need to in the building. And so I've done that. I actually brought in a SPED teacher from another district, and they became a science teacher for me because they worked SPED for 20 years and they were done with it. You know how much energy they have this year being that science teacher. And the good thing is I don't have to worry about them differentiated instruction because they already know how being that SPED teacher for forever. So those are some just like little caveats, the things I have to think about when I'm shifting people. And when I shifted the PE teacher over to our construction teacher position, that person has a lot of outside experience. And all I had to do is take their resume, send it to the state of Nebraska. And I asked them, could we get this endorsement for this teacher? And they said, yes. All they have to do is pay the money and we'll get them the endorsement. And I solved my problems right there. And I'm like going, great. We're finding clever ways to get people endorsed. And I like the idea that I can take a teacher, and if they're not endorsed in that area, we can get them endorsed and still bring them on if they're a good teacher. So I'm still trying to hire quality teachers and put them in the spaces that they are strong in too. So what does that look like for you? I kind of took off on that, but that's just where my brain goes as a secondary high school principal.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. Now let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different here in Vegas. We're the 5th largest school district in the country. And we pretty much have an HR department that does a lot of that for us. People are not, there's two kind of ways to look at this. If it's a hard to fill position, such as, an autism classroom, then you can hire out of the district pretty much any time. But there's a period from pretty much February to April where you're only really allowed to hire people within the district and transfer people from other schools. So when I say internal, what I mean by that is internal within the building. So we made 15 internal changes within the building with the people who were here. Then I had to hire 3 people from outside of or I guess it's 4 people from outside of the building to come into our school to fill our other positions. Those are technically within district internal transfers. And then because we had to hire a teacher for the self-contained program for autism, she could be hired from out of the district. So you kind of got to know all the ins and outs of everything and who you can hire and who you can't. But our HR department does a great job with us in the fact that on our screen and in our system, we really can't see people until they've already kind of been proven to be able to be hired. It doesn't always work out like that, but ultimately the list of candidates we have are the ones that are able to do the job. So I don't ever have to email the state and say, hey, I've got this person. Can we do this? We don't really have to get into that at all, which is very, very helpful. Way, way different. I'm actually excited to hear that a state is willing to do that. I think that's amazing because I grew up in a small town in Washington State, and you said our construction teacher. And I was instantly like, we didn't have construction teachers back where I came from. But that's cool if you can find someone who just kind of retired from construction and they know the business and then you can get them into your school just simply by having the state say, yes, here's a probationary license, and go from there. I think that's actually great. So kudos to Nebraska for that.
Yeah, no, it's like Nebraska's always trying to figure out how can we, because everybody says, I mean, it's probably been this way the last 6 years, maybe 7 years, that we're in a hiring shortage around nationwide. And for us, Nebraska has taken steps to where, like, if you, and I'm going to say a caveat here, you have to have a teaching license to go sit for a test or to build your resume out if you have something that you can, become endorsed in through just experience as well. So they'll look at, like, can you pass the content test? Do you have experience in this area? That's really helpful in our skill technical sciences, like, manufacturing, automotives, construction, family consumer science. If you have experience that's not necessarily going to an education school, they'll honor that. And that's really good, because then we're able to fill more positions, and we're able to take somebody that may not have a teaching license, but if they have a bachelor's, we can get them probationary, based off of that. We can figure out what that looks like and get them through what we call a transition program, or transitioning from, whatever job they were doing into education itself. And that's them just learning, like, teaching philosophies and how to manage a classroom, things that I could do already, right? But at the same time, the senators are working with the state about, hey, can we take somebody, instead of going through the transition program, they have a bachelor's, we give them a probationary, and they just learn from the school. Like, the principals go in and coach them up, and because we do anyway. So there's that thing that they're working through to possibly be able to make it easier for people to become teachers. And I know some of the people that have been in education don't like those ideas, but man, when you're talking about bringing people in and trying to fill spots and trying to make sure you keep the programs you're trying to keep going, it's a huge win for us when it comes to that. And like here, I'm lucky I'm in a bigger populated area to where it's attractive for people to come. When I was a small rural school principal, it was harder to attract people. You had to use your benefit package. Like, hey, we'll pay for all your benefits. Come over here, And so we had to do those type of recruitments when I was at a smaller district. I'm lucky I'm in a district I'm at because it is an attractive district for people to come to. And I get people applying just because of where our location is, and just the community itself is a great community. So that's where I'm at. How about you?
To be fair, Las Vegas might have programs like that. Being elementary school is just so much different than secondary. It just really is. We're just K5. You got pre-K a little bit there, but it's a fascinating difference. I know for a fact that middle school and high school math teachers are difficult to come by. It's just elementary is just different, especially in the suburban urban setting, to where I don't have to kind of worry about that. I'm also quite blessed because, people want to come to our school. People see it online. And so it really recruits itself in a way. And so I really don't have a shortage of people. In fact, one young lady that I hired this year emailed me in October, and she was like, I'm ready to make the jump. And so already I got someone before I even know I got a position for her. And I have people like that. It's just, to be honest, as you've kind of pointed out, it's just different situations and different systems that kind of make it easier or different. I know in my hometown, which is, 1,000 by 1,200 kids or 1,200 people, in Washington, it's hard to recruit teachers back there. But I mean, jobs don't open up very often either. But it's hard to get someone to move to a small town in Washington or Nevada or Nebraska. There's rural cities in Nebraska that probably struggle because they're far away from everything. And it's probably a real challenge to get people to come teach there.
Yeah, a lot of them have to end up doing some sort of distant learning, remote teacher, maybe getting some sort of online, like, okay, the district next to you that's 20 miles away has a Spanish teacher. We don't. Hey, can we have our kids remote in to your classroom these times and we'll match our schedule to your schedule to satisfy those courses and those things like that. So I've seen that in smaller schools as well.
If you do that though, don't you still have to find a person to be in the room with the students that has a license?
Yeah, not necessarily a teacher. You could put a pair in there as long as you have an adult.
Okay, interesting. A little different here. You need teaching
Yeah,
license.
could you put a? Yeah, you need to have somebody. You have to have at least an adult in there, on that case. But that teacher, that's the online remote teacher, is the teacher of record.
Okay.
So they're the teacher, and so you have the pair in there to help support that teacher, even though they're remote. So
That
that's
kinda
kind of how
seems-
you can get around that.
You make such a good point, because I think, with the perspective of suburbia and urban suburbia, is there's a fear out there in education that that's kind of where it's going to go, to where you can just have everything online and one person teaching, and you only have to put a paraprofessional in a room. And hypothetically, you could have, however many 20, 30 classrooms zoom in to one teacher. And I think there's a little bit of a fear about that in some ways, but out in rural communities, that's really the way to go sometimes.
Yeah, and it's happened more than you'd like to happen, and they don't want to do that, but they're also trying to figure out how to give their students the most opportunities they can. Because when you're starting to have, like, at a high school level, like, I'd never want to cut a program. And if I'm cutting programs, I'm cutting opportunities my students have to be engaged in those types of content and career readiness opportunities that they don't get anywhere else. And so, like, at a high school level, we're thinking about how are we getting these kids ready to become adults? What avenues, what pathways, what, classes can these kids take to get them ready? Like, we partner with Central Community College and the hospital here in town, where we bring CNA classes to our school to where kids can be certified as a certified nurse assistant, and they can get that in one semester, and then they can be off working. We also have phlebotomy class that we partner with them on. We do automotive class. The kids can get 12 automotive college credits before they even leave our building. Like, our dual enrollment opportunities are crazy. Like, my assistant principal's daughter, I think, has like 42 college credits, and she's getting ready to graduate, right? Like, it's like these kids have a lot of opportunities to play ahead of the game. And so I have to balance, like, when I lose somebody, can I have somebody fill those dual enrollment requirements too?
Yeah.
So those are other little caveats that you have to think about when hiring.
Yeah.
So do they have a master's? Because if they have a master's, then I can do this.
I'm very elementary, and I don't do well with middle schoolers. And honestly, credits and all that stuff just seems confusing to me. So I'll go ahead and I'll stick to just the K-5. We're going to differentiate basic with our specials. But it's great to see, though, people, and again, you have to be creative, I feel like, in a rural setting or a rural area in order to provide the best education you can for life. It's just different than when I was young. We had the basics, and here now, like you said, with construction or phlebotomy, all those things. I love that the communities are trying to find ways to give students opportunities to know what they want to do in life. And I think it's great. And we have some of those in Vegas, magnets and things of that nature. But out in the rural communities, I just think it's great that they're creative like that.
Yeah, we have to. And we do a lot of, like, community partnerships. We have a work-based learning program where kids can go out in their senior year and do a paid internship in a career choice that they are really interested in. And we've actually been able to get some kids really like, I really want to become a teacher now because I had this experience. And so, that's part of our Grow Our Own initiative as well. And we're always looking to add things, and how can we grow our workforce within our community, but how do we partner with our community partners to give our kids the best experiences as possible? And I live in a community. We have 3 high schools. We have a Catholic high school. We have what I call the public rural school, or the private rural public school. Private public school is what we call it. It's just a joke we have with them, because my community's landlocked, my school's landlocked, so we can't grow. We have a finite amount of money. And so the school district that's our actual rural school district landlocks us. And so they take all the other money for their school. And so, with them, I mean, they could, they get a lot of option enrollment. So they can, kind of restrict their enrollment where they can, and deny people. And it's a whole thing. And we don't want to get into it. They're great people. I know them. They're great people out there, but we do like to tease them about it because we do share kids. We share them back and forth, and we'll call each other and go, hey, tell me about this kid. Should I let him into my school? Nope. Okay. I'll let you keep them, stuff like that. Like,
I've been at both sides. I've been at my last school. It was, we have zones in Vegas. You have a school zone. And my last school was landlocked. Like you said, the zone was the zone. And then every year it was 493 kids about. And that just was what it was. And it was consistent and stable. And now my school out here, it's changed every year. And next year we're going back up and we're on, we're on open enrollment, school choice, which is called a COSA out here. So now we're going to get tons of people that want to come back in. And that's the challenge for us, because if we end up with, let's just say, an extra 50 kids we didn't plan on, we don't have the teachers. We don't get to hire the teachers until basically October. And it's a constant challenge every year when you're not landlocked and you don't have as very close to a specific number of kids, because you're guessing so much. I'm guessing that I need 6 fifth grade teachers next year, but that puts them all at about 32 kids each. Well, if 20 other fifth graders show up, now you're all at 37 kids each, and things start to get really tight. And the thing that people don't understand, I think, is that not only do the classrooms get tight, but that affects specials in elementary too. So you have 37 kids in art, but then we have some push in for our self-contained classes. And it gets to be quite a challenge when you don't have a specific number of kids every year close to it. And you have to kind of manage that. That's the fun part to me, is managing all of that stuff. But I miss the days sometimes of being consistent as well.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey there, amazing educational leaders. If you're finding value in this podcast, learning new insights, getting inspired, or just nodding along thinking, yep, I needed that, then why keep it to yourself? Share this podcast with a colleague, a fellow school leader, or a teacher that is inspiring into leadership. Send them a link, post about it, or just casually drop, hey, you need this in your life the next time you see them. Let's grow this community of game-changing educators together, because great leadership isn't a solo act, it's a movement. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, there's something to that, right? We kind of I can always see what our numbers are coming. We get a report every month about what our numbers, and my numbers fluctuate. We have around 1,000 students. So my numbers can be as low as, I've seen it as low as 943 in a month, and I've seen it as high as 1,053 in a month. And so I will be somewhere in that range. And for us, it's nice being that size of a high school, because we're on for Nebraska, we have 4 classifications. We have class A, B, C, and D. Now we have more within those C and D classifications. I won't get into all that headache, but for us, we are the second highest classification in the state. So we're just small enough that we're not class A, because we would not be very competitive there at times. We could in some things, but not everything. And then we are high enough to be a fairly good sized B school, to where we're a lot more competitive because of our size and the things that we do. And now we do go in cycles with that too, with being competitive in different things as well. Sometimes we're in an upswing, sometimes we're in a downswing. It just depends on our kids and what we have for talent when it comes to that. Yeah. But Nebraska has school choice. If you don't like the school you're in, you just opt into the school next to it.
Well, but yeah, that's
or
the
go
problem,
private. It's up to you.
If you decided, Mr. Linden, that you were going to just basically drive everybody out, and the other school, then magically 100 kids decided they wanted to go there, that creates a problem on the other side as well, because they're not prepared for that extra 100 kids. So school choice is fabulous if you look at it from different angles. As a parent, it's probably great. You get to choose the school you want to go to. Oh, Hastings High has a construction program. I'm into that. I want to go there. From a parent perspective, it's probably great. From admin, it gets a little sticky, because if all of a sudden you got 100 new kids knocking on your doorstep because the school next to you isn't good, you don't have the personnel for that. And depending on when it is in Las Vegas, you wouldn't get the money for it. So it's a fascinating thing. School choice is good, but it's also bad there as well.
Like Nebraska, they want to start doing these vouchers. And the people in Nebraska said no to school vouchers. Like, we're not going to do the vouchers. But our governor is still trying to be like, he's trying to sneak it into things. And everybody's like, nope, don't do that. Because we're in a unicamera, so everything's out in the open. You can't sneak anything if you're paying attention. And so the governor keeps trying to sneak in school choice initiatives, even though, was it 68% of the state said no to school choice. And my thing is, it's more school vouchers than anything. It's not really school choice, because I've always said you have school choice. If you don't like the district you can always move to another district. Even though that district may be 20 miles down the road, you can do that if you want to, or you can opt in. And we have kids that opt in to our school from around the surrounding communities because of the programs we have. Like, I have kids like, you have this program, my school that I'm at right now doesn't. So I want to opt in for that opportunity. And we allow them to do that. But we also have to start thinking about what's our enrollment numbers, because we don't want to overdo the option enrollment to a point to where we're stuck at a classification that we don't want to be at. So you can kind of restrict it a little bit, but when you're a public school, you have what you have and you kind of deal with it.
But it's a struggle too, because you're like me, where if my program's going to get that kid to come to school and love school, then by goodness, come on over. Let's go. Let's get you in there. And that's my philosophy is, if 100 parents want to bring their kids to Thompson because that's going to get their kids to love school, then by goodness, we'll figure it out. We'll get you here and we'll figure it out. But that's a struggle. It's just, you care and you want the kids to love school. I was going to ask, with your programs, that has to help with like chronic absenteeism and things like that, because if they're bought in and they want to do those programs, they'll be at school. Elementary is different, of course. I don't have those programs. Now I have clubs and things of that nature, but we have to work on chronic absenteeism by making it a place they want to come and make it fun and exciting and all the things. You have the programs to pull them in. So the programs surely have to help with attendance.
Yeah, it does. I would say if you get a kid locked into some sort of program or some sort of niche, and that's the nice thing about my school, is we have a lot of things that kids they can become a part of. And the other caveat that I will also say is we do have a fairly decent amount of low socioeconomic students and families within our school district. So we used to be about 64. We're actually down to about 54. So there could be a lot of reasons for that. One, the families aren't filling out the paperwork. Two, we actually had a reduction. I don't know which one it actually is, but we do service a pretty good amount of free and reduced students with low socioeconomics. A lot of them's one-parent homes where the parents are working. Like we have kids that have to work to help their family make ends meet. So that's a struggle sometimes, because they would like to maybe be a part of something, but hey, they have to go and help provide for their family. Yeah. And so maybe school's not their number one thing. Now we do have an alternative learning placement for kids to kind of help with those things. So those kids that go over there, their real focus is to graduate, and so they can go become a productive member of society. And so with that, we have these different things to help with that, but we still battle the chronic absenteeism, the kids wanting to be at school. So we still work on what is our school culture? How do we have how do kids feel about coming to school? What are the things we do to promote our culture, to hype the kids, and just know that they're welcomed here? And one of the biggest like shifts we did my first year here was, instead of asking kids, where have you been? It's, how have you been? And we're glad to see you. Welcome back, to bring in that welcoming environment, like mindset, because the last thing a kid wants to hear after they just had a rough go at whatever they're doing, they come back in and they're getting berated because they haven't been in school for 3 or 4 days because they've been dealing with something outside. Like, we don't know what they're going through. And so we still have that in small town, rural Nebraska schools, where we battle some of those things that you will see in a suburban or urban school. And I'm not lost on that because I taught in Omaha for 3 years. And so I know what it's like to see a suburban urban school and the challenges they have. And we still see it out here in South Central Nebraska sometimes. And so we still work on, like, we want you here, we want you to feel good and all these programs. But yeah, we know if a kid is connected to the school outside of just coming to school for academics, they're going to be way more successful and their attendance is going to be so much better because they have something bigger than themselves to come for. And that's our biggest takeaway. The biggest thing we try to do is get kids involved than not be involved.
Yeah, you make such a good point. Elementary people, out there, anybody that listens, I think that's such a critical thing. Like, whenever a kid's late, I'll tell them, I'm glad you're here, buddy. Because in elementary school, it's not the kid's fault 99% of the time. If they're late, if they're absent or whatever. So, I think that's just a shift of just like, it's not the kid's fault. Look at things through their eyes. Do you think a kid wants to be late and wants to get yelled at and wants to be berated for? They don't. It's not their fault. Mom didn't get them up or dad works late or whatever it might be. So again, I think that's a great perspective to have, is look at through their kids' eyes. And then also, I was wondering, is there, this is again my elementary mind, I've always said I know valedictorian and salutatorian, but what about like the kid that's just proficient in life? At a graduation, I would love to see a student who has worked nights and weekends to help his family or his siblings. I want to hear from that kid at graduation or something like that, because that kid's going places. That kid knows how to work hard and knows how to help people. And I think sometimes, not to knock salutatorians and valedictorians down, but that's sometimes school comes so easy to some kids. But that kid that's worked his tail off, let's listen to him sometimes, or let's find out what's going on and to make school better for those students.
It's kind of interesting you say that, because this is how we work graduation speeches here at Hastings High. So we don't do like valedictorian. We do the Greek method system, to where you have to hit a certain GPA percentage, or like, you have to be between 3.5 to 3.75 to get this chord, from 3.75 to 3.99 to get this chord. Anything 4.0 and up, you get this course. So we have 3 levels. And so we have so many kids that graduate with some sort of academic honors. Like, we'll have probably almost half our kids have some sort of academic chord, right? Now, with that, they get recognized by wearing a chord at graduation, which is cool. But we also, when we are doing a graduation speeches, it's not necessarily the kids that have the highest GPA in their class speaking. One of our speakers is actually the president of our STUCO. Every year, the president will speak. That's at graduation. That's an automatic. You're locked in. You're doing a graduation speech. And so from there, we actually put out, we're actually going through the process right now. Each department in the school gets to nominate kids in their department. So what we'll do is look at, so when you're talking about that construction kid, you're talking about that kid in manufacturing, those kids in that department have an opportunity to be nominated. And a lot of times they get nominated in other departments as well. So that makes it easiest for to triangulate which kids are going to speak. Now, the kids get asked to speak. They do not have to, but if they would like to, they're more than welcome to. If not, we just go to the next kid. And so we have about 6 kids that will speak at graduation, and they can be from, somebody that's, really high on academics, but we also look at character. We look at how hard they work. It also could be that kid that may not, be the highest GPA, but they work real hard and they have gone through tests and trials. And those speeches are some of our best ones.
Yeah.
Like when you get to hear these kids speak and they go through their experience and get to share that, it's just really neat to see how it all come in. Every year I've done graduation here, those kids have done an awesome job with their graduation speeches. And it's not the top 6 GPA kids get to speak. No, it's all a process that our teachers get to nominate students. And then we as a leadership team will come together and select it based off the nominations that our teachers give. And so it's a really cool process we do. And we limit at 6 because we want to keep it under an hour and a half. And we tell the kids, you got like 5 minutes. Your speech has to be 5 minutes or less, because if you think about that's 30 minutes right there if you have 6 kids.
But I think
so that's kind of how we do that process when we do graduation.
I think you should be proud of that. I think anybody listening should really reflect upon that, because like in Vegas now it's different. There's 800 kids graduating and they got to have them out in 2 hours. So usually what happens is the top GPA students will share a speech together and I'll read a few lines and go for it, because they don't have the time with so many kids. But I think there's definitely something to be said about recognizing students who have overcome obstacles to be there, and so they can feel that as well. I struggle, at elementary school, we don't do it at Thompson. We don't really do honor roll, because there's some students that are going to get A's just by walking in the door. But I want to know about the kid that has growth mindset and grit and perseverance, that is struggling but works their tail off to get a C or a B. That's cool. I think we should recognize those kids more. Those kids are going to be able to handle life when it throws a curveball at them. So often, we do growth mindset, but not all schools do. But you have that kid that's just never had a trial or a tribulation in elementary school, and then they get a B in middle school, and it's the end of the world. They don't know how to handle it. So I think we have to recognize kids that have some grit and some perseverance more somehow, just to get it on everybody's radar.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
All right, educational leaders. You know how we tell our students feedback makes us better? Well, same goes for this podcast. If you've been getting value from this podcast, please take 60 seconds to leave a quick 5-star review. This review isn't just a pat on the back, although I appreciate it. It helps other leaders find the show, join the conversation, and grow right along with us. More reviews equal more reach equal a stronger community of game-changing educators. So hit that review button, drop a few words, and let's keep making educational leadership better together. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, for me, not at this high school that I'm at, because we do one state assessment a year for each grade level, so we can satisfy Pool Rule 10, the Rule 10 of state of Nebraska. So every freshman, sophomore, and junior have to have some sort of national assessment done. So we usually do our freshmen and sophomores in the fall, and we do our juniors. So when it comes to having the assessment grain that you're going through, I don't miss it. I don't have to do that anymore. I used to, though, as a rural school principal when I was a 7-12 principal, where we had to do the NSCAS testing. That's our state assessment for our 7th grade, 8th graders, but our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors and seniors still had to take it, even though we still had to do the ACT. So one thing that we started doing when I was the principal at that district, we would have a academic pep rally and talk and reward kids for growth. And so we would honor the kids. You grew this much over the year. Here's a certificate. And some kids, that was like the best thing ever, right? Because that kid that's not that straight A student, they struggle with school, but they grew. We're so excited to get that. And they were so proud to have that. So at a rural school where I was at small, I was able to do that. The system that I'm in now with the high school, I would love to be able to do that. We just don't have the setup like I used to, or I probably would be doing something like that. So I really love the fact honoring kids' growth and we do it in front of everybody. 7th graders line up. You grew by these amount of points in these areas. Great job, And it was such an honor for those kids to get that. And you'd have parents like with tears and things like that. So it was a really great thing that we did. And I would encourage people to think about maybe an academic pep rally if you can. One thing I thought of, you talked about earlier about people going, hey, we really like this school culture you have, and they want to be a part of that. And so you get people naturally gravitate towards your school. For me, social media has been a big help because when I came here, the social media footprint wasn't there. Now I'm lucky now I have a digital content creator that does that stuff, so I don't have to worry about it. So we have a pretty good social media presence for our school, which we show all the great things that are happening, not just sports, but activities and what's going on in the classroom. I've had teachers this year in interviews say, I want to be a part of this school because I saw this online. Do you have some of that for your school? Do you have a social media presence that promotes the things you do and that kind of draws people in? Have you seen some of that work out for you?
Yeah, definitely. If you follow Tyrone Thompson ES on Facebook or Instagram, you'll see a lot of the great things. I wish I had a digital content creator, but what I have is one of the best strategists ever that does so much for the school. The problem is that she has another job as well. So next year I want to work on this and just get better at it. But ultimately, yeah, social media is your best medium for getting your name out there. People find things, people see things. And I think it's great. I think teachers too, when they're applying, they look up the school and they try to see what's going on. To be fair, though, I think sometimes, I could be wrong, I think sometimes teachers look up our social media and they get scared and they think, I don't want to do all that. Because it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. We do a lot with the house system. We do a lot with different schedules. We have a lot of different programs. We've got clubs. We've got sports. We've got garden committee. I mean, we've got as much as I think we can really do. And I think sometimes it gets a little intimidating. I don't know if you find this too, but even when people look up all the things, and I tell people when you interview, I'm like, listen, we are not normal. We do things differently. We got a lot going on. And I'll tell them that, and I don't think they really believe me. And what happens is about October, they'll get the deer in the headlights look, and they'll think, holy moly, this is a lot. Once they get through the first year, everything's okay. But I think people are often amazed at how much we do, and we put it on social media as well. But until you get here and do it, it's a whole different thing. I have this thing I do one of my speaking sessions where I have a shirt and a picture. The student teachers about 4 years ago, I had a talk with them. And I said, are you committed or are you interested? Because there's two different things there. You can be committed to Thompson and do all the things, or you can just be interested in it. And then you get here and you're like, oh, this is a lot. So what I find is that a lot of people are very interested in Thompson and all we do. But when they get here, they find out they have to be committed. And if they aren't, it starts to get really overwhelming because every week we got something going on or we got this going on. And so social media, it's great because it gets people interested. But then the question is are they committed?
That's a great perspective. That's really great to look at that way. And my thing is like for me, when I hire people, I want people that want to be here. I want people that want to be at Hastings High because they believe in what we're doing and they want to be a part of something. And I always say, be a part of something bigger than yourself. You can find that here at Hastings High. one thing that we talk about with candidates is we have a lot of support. Our administration across the board, not just me, but my assistant principals, my ADs, my deans, we support our teachers and they know it. And this community knows it. The parents know it. We will support our teachers because we need to support them so they can do their job. And then when they are supported, they feel good about what they're doing. Man, they're going to teach the heck out of those kids, right? And we have systems and we have processes. We have things in place when it comes to behavior, when it comes to PLCs, when it comes to the BIS process, the PBIS stuff, like all the things that we have. People don't realize all the things that we do until they go through the interview process with us and they go, holy crap, that could be a lot. And it can be challenging. But I always give them, no matter if the teacher has taught 30 years or if they're a brand new, student teacher, never taught besides student teaching, everybody gets a guide teacher at my school because you're not going to know how my school runs when you get in here. You may know the content, you may know how to teach, but you need somebody to help you through the systems and the processes and the things we do. So because it's a lot and it could become overwhelming. And so we have a checklist that our guide teacher will go through, but we give them time. We give them the ability to meet with each other and to, go through those things. It's not like you have to go through them all at once, but you have a go-to person in the building. And so I do that. Like I said, I brought in a teacher that had, 15 years of experience. They still had a guide teacher. Like, you're going to have somebody because there's so much going on in our building and you just need to have that go-to person. Not saying us principals can't help you. You just need that connection, that staff member that can help you out. And I always put them with an experienced staff members that know what they're doing. So that's always an important piece too. But yeah, the amount of collaboration and things we do, nobody's on an island here. Everybody's working together. We're a team because our overall objective is to get kids ready for their futures, whatever that future is.
Yeah. I kind of have I'm the same, a little bit different. Here in elementary, we have strategists. And they're placed there for a reason. The strategists there are there to help you strategize on how you're going to overcome these things. My job is to give them everything they need to be successful. That's my number one job for any staff member. What do you need to be successful? I will buy it, or I will find it, or I will help you find it. But at the same point in time, you have to be a self-starter. I can't hold your hand. I can't run around and put out all the fires and all the drama that you might create. I don't have time. So you have to be a self-starter. And I think elementary might be different. My wife teaches middle school and she says middle school is way different, but elementary, we have a little bit of drama. We got some things that happen. You have 6 people in the grade level. They're not always going to get along. If they do, that's great. But ultimately, you have a strategist to help you out through this. And then if it gets in my door, of course, then I'll help. But at the same point in time, I don't know. I know you know about Ron Clark and, Ron Clark Academy, probably, I assume, right?
Yep.
My theory is kind of a lot like Ron's in some ways, which is you've got the runners and the joggers, and then you got the walkers and the riders. And the runners and the joggers are the ones that move your system. I'm going to support the runners and the joggers as much as possible because they're the ones that are making the bus move. The walkers and the riders, you're slowing us down. This is Ron's analogy, and I just love it. If you're riding the bus, you're just slowing the system down. I don't have time for that. I'm going to go to the people that are making the bus move and help them and put people in place to help them. So, when you come to Thompson, people who are new here, I'll usually show them the video of Ron Clark explaining this and be like, you got to be a runner or a jogger. And if you can't do that, then at least clap from the sidelines and cheer for the people doing it. And, sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes people, as I say, some people make a wise business decision for themselves and they choose to go to a different school. But ultimately, we want to be a part of this system, this thing that's bigger. At Thompson, we say it's not a school, it's an experience. And so ultimately, that's the goal, is to be a model of what a public school can and should be. And some people get a little bit of an imposter syndrome where they just can't keep up. And it makes it difficult. But ultimately, Hastings sounds like Thompson in the fact that you come here, we're going to help you as much as possible, but we want it to be something bigger than just a normal school.
And I think that's the thing that we strive for, right? And, I'm lucky that I have a great school board. My school board supports us. And, the crazy thing is I have school board members that have children the same age as me, and we see each other on the weekend. But I try not to talk shop. I'm like, hey, I'm out with my family. Like I was talking to you, maybe a week or two ago when we were setting up this session here was, hey, I got club volleyball going. My daughter's on cheer. And so I was busy almost every weekend doing something. So when it came down to just my daughter's, her things that she's got going on as well. And I think that's something that we try to do. I know you have 5 kids, if I remember right?
Yeah, 5 daughters, 2 in college, 3 are in high school.
Yeah.
But you bring up something too.
You got a lot of things to juggle too.
Yeah, you bring up something with the school board. I don't, I have a friend that's in South Dakota. He's a superintendent. And when he was a principal, he's in a small town. You're going to run into the school board a lot as the principal, and you're going to see them, and you might even be in the same establishment with them and at the table next to us. And you have to kind of think about that. If you make the school board member mad, there's a good chance that you might drive by them or something. In a town of 2.5 million people, I don't see the school board very often, so I don't really have to worry about that. Another interesting dynamic of the rural and urban perspective there. And I can't even, I could tell you who the school board member for our area is, but I've never seen her in public. And that's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but something you and your people in the small towns, especially, that the school board member's student is in your school and all of that dynamic, there's a lot more political pull there probably.
Yeah. And it's good. It's bad. It's not really bad. It's just, they get firsthand experience as a leader because their kids going home and saying things. Now, I've been lucky so far. The kids go home and say nice things about me. So far, so good. We'll just leave it at that. But overall, no. And the people will realize with me, I am pretty, across the board. I'm going to be equitable, fair, whatever you want to call it. I don't care who you are. You're going to follow the expectations. We have the systems in place. And if you don't, you get consequences, good or bad. And I don't care if you are a school board member's kid, the superintendent's kid, my own kid, things like that. I have to, when I'm doing my job, I have to be able to say we have systems in place. We have things that we do, and we got to be tight on that because I can't make exceptions just because of who you are. And I think that's important too. But at the same time, building relationships with those people is really important because they, in a sense, they can, they have a little more weight than you'd like them to sometimes. But, you got to make sure you're doing your job the best of your ability so they keep you around. I joke around and say, I'm here until you guys decide to fire me. I say, I'm not going anywhere. I love what I do. And for the most part, it's worked out well, wherever I've been. Yeah, that's a little caveat. When you're in a smaller district, even smaller than the one I'm in, it's even more like you're going to see them, you're going to interact with them outside of the school. It's not, and you're going to be having school board meetings every month with them. So you get to know them pretty well and our school sizes as well. And we're a larger district and I'm getting to know the 9 school board members we have at a decent rate. Maybe not as much. I don't have as much as I did before, but there are a lot of good people out there, a lot of good school board members out there that they basically know that they want what's best for the kids and they just want you to have the freedom to do your job and they want to support you. And that's been my experience with the school boards I've had. And so I've been blessed in that. Now I've heard that's not the case everywhere. And I've been lucky in my career so far is to have good people in those positions when it comes to that. So there you go. Perspective from the rural school on that. So we're sitting here mid-April. I'm going, crap, graduation's around the corner. I've sent out some emails telling the seniors, this is your last day. These are the process. These are the things you're going to do. Here's the checklist that you have to accomplish before you can graduate and before you can walk and before you do all these things. So I'm getting ready to go into one of the most high stress times of my school year. Instead of a state assessments, that's what's going to be stressing me out for the next month. What is the next month and a half of school look like for you?
I am so thankful that I do not have to worry about students getting enough credits to graduate or things like that. I don't want to be involved in that at all. That's not my thing. Elementary is just different. At least at my school, I know I'm different than a lot of other schools. Right now, for the next 2 weeks, we're doing state testing. That's number one, and that just shuts the building down pretty much. We do SBACs out here, and that's just what it is. We get done with that on April 22nd. I have my calendar up right here. I'm looking at it. On April 23rd is Take Your Child to Work Day. On April 24th, we have what's called an SBAC picnic. So we have a great big celebration. Yay, we're done. We do raffles and things like this for the kids that did great. And then, amazingly enough, out in Vegas, the following week, we have what's called MAP testing. So we have to do MAP, NWEA. That eats up another week. And then then Teacher Appreciation Week comes. So I'm blessed. I have people that plan that and do a great job. I basically just say, what do you need? That's the first week in May. By the way, we have a 5th grade trip to Disney and a 4th grade field trip on May 1st and a this and a that. But following that, a Teacher Appreciation Week, we have Career Week. It just goes on and on. And within that, we have fire drills and staff kid breakfast and 5 house, 1 family night. So that's basically our end of the year festival. You have all of that. We have what's called a Million Word Club celebration. So any students that read 1,000,000 words this year, they get to take a field trip and go to the Sphere and see the Wizard of Oz. That's a big deal. And then we have field day and house field trips and kinder graduation and 5th grade graduation. That's all pretty much May. It's just all of those things. And it's amazing how we just pack so much into May. I don't know why. We're all tired. We're all exhausted, but it's what we do. So really between now and honestly the end of the year, I'm pretty much day to day, week to week, what's on the calendar. But again, I'm very blessed to have people in places that just really take care of things as well. I don't have to worry. I just pretty much have to assist where I'm able to.
And I would say, even though we have the things we have coming up, because we still have prom, we have graduation, we have, we're done with we don't have to worry about the testing. Like in Nebraska, we utilize NWEA at the elementary, middle school, but I don't use it at the high school, even though we could. But our NSCAS testing was designed by NWEA. So we actually have our own NWEA for the state of Nebraska. So they actually built out our platform for those things. But yeah, for us, it's just trying to keep it right now. It's you have fines to pay. You have, giving information out. Now, one thing that we started doing a year and a half ago is we started sending out monthly bills to families. So they understand, you have this bill, you need to start paying on it. Guess what? If it's not 0 by graduation, you ain't walking.
See, another thing I just
and that's a stressful time because when you have to tell people no, tell people no, you can't walk. And that's a hard thing to do on that. But for the most part, I will work with families. I will come up with payment plans. I will do whatever I can to help them. But you got to meet me halfway on some of this stuff when it comes down to that. So, yeah, but I have a great team of people. We actually had our graduation meeting on March 24th. That was the day we ended up testing our juniors for ACT. And so that afternoon we sat down and we started listing out all the things we need to do to get ready for graduation on March 24th. And now we're halfway through April and we're starting to hit the things on that list. This needs to do, this needs to happen. These things are going on. And then on top of that, we have, like I said, prom. That's another undertaking. Now we have great people that take care of stuff. I have a great administrative assistant. I have great, assistant principals and people that we all know our job and we know what we got to do. But in the end of the day, I have to kind of oversee everything, manage it, make sure if there's something going awry, I have to come in. We got to figure out a solution. We move on and we move forward. So it's just a lot, and we'll get through it. Like our last day was kids after graduation. Graduation's May 17th. Our last day for students is May 21st. Our last day with teachers is May 22nd. I don't know what your guys' year look like, but we start, August 13th and we end like May 22nd every year. What does your look like for the end?
Yeah, we're pretty much the same. We end the last day with kids is May 22nd. So, we're pretty similar in Nebraska, which surprised me. Back home in Washington State, they start late. They start after Labor Day, so it's a little different there. But, we pretty much have off May 22nd the teachers are supposed to come back after Memorial Day on May 26th, but there'll probably be some sick days taken there. But pretty much from the end of May until August, they come back August 6th this year. They're off. But also, just going back to it, you have a great team of people, and that just makes everything so much easier, really. It comes back to one of my things, just trust the people. Just let the people that want to create this stuff and do this stuff go. I'm very blessed with fifth grade. We have a fifth grade graduation. There's a teacher that's just going to make a video, and she's just going to put the program together. And, you just have to trust your people, but then be there to oversee it and help them if they got any questions. You got to deal with it. But yeah, from now till the end of school, it's just go, go, go. I'm sure most schools are probably like that, or I hope they are, because that's when the memories are made. You don't remember being in high school, taking a test on something.
Yeah.
But you remember, your prom or graduation and things of that nature. So this is the time when you make the memories that be memorable.
Well, Robert, we've talked a lot of things. We're an hour into the show here. Overall, I really appreciate the time that we spent together, just talking about what it's like to be a principal and all the things we got going on. And I'm really excited to have this adventure with you and have these perspectives, have these type of conversations to share with people, because I think it's going to be helpful down the road, because someone's going to listen to this and go, wow, that's, really interesting. I never thought of those things. So hopefully we inspired you in some way today. Hopefully you found a little nugget that you can use in your own principalship or leadership journey yourself. So Robert, is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
Yeah, no, that's the whole goal, is just inspire people. I say anybody that listen, if you have a question or you have a topic you want us to cover and see where we land on it, we gladly do that. If there's one thing I'm not shy about, it's giving my perspective. Perspective is just a fancy word for opinion in reality. So anybody that wants to tell us what they want a perspective on, then we can do that. So, but yeah, it's always good. You and I just kind of flow, and we can talk about whatever, and it's going to be good just to bounce things off of someone from Nebraska and just see what people want to hear about.
You bet. No, yeah, and you guys are listening out there, please you can email me at the.principal.jl@gmail.com. You can also, there's a little send a text. You can also send it through that. That will be in the show notes as well. So you can connect with us, give us your questions, give us something that you guys are struggling with, and we'll come back on and we'll talk about we'll also give you a shout out. How about that? We'll give you a shout out. Give us your name. Where are you from? We'll give you a shout out, and we'll talk about maybe some things that you guys are wanting to know more about, or just curious about how we land or how we fall, or what our perspectives is on that. And I want to promote Robert here a little bit. He's got some great books out there. I'll probably put them down in the show notes. So I'm going to help him out with that. He's got some you got a lot of great things out there. I'll probably just put your website down, because that'll probably be the best way to go find all the different things you do. And, because you do other things, you're a great principal, but you're out there leading the charge and helping people become even better leaders by, speaking and sharing your knowledge with other people out there. So I'll make sure people connect with you as well on those avenues as well. So, well, Robert, it's great having you on, and I can't wait to do this again.
Yeah, man, it's always fun. Always a pleasure to talk to you and try to inspire more people across the country or the world.
I hope you enjoyed the episode with Robert and I. If this episode resonates with you, please share with someone who needs to hear it. Please subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss another episode like this one. Also, if you would like for us to discuss any type of topic about education, about educational leadership, and wanting us to give us our perspectives on your situation, please write into the show and please give us your name. I'd love to give you a shout out. So all you have to do is email me at the.principal.jl@gmail.com, or you just have to click the little send text message on the show notes, and it will send me a message directly to me, and you could just let me know what topic you would like Robert and I to discuss next. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, in order to be the change, you must be curious and 1% better. Thank you for sticking around to the very end of this episode. I hope this podcast brings value to you as an educational leader. I would invite you to share this podcast with other educational leaders, or maybe that inspiring teacher who would like to be an educational leader someday. I would also invite you to subscribe and to follow this podcast so you can get the most recent updated episodes when they drop. I would also love it if you leave a review and rate this podcast 5 stars, because that would make this podcast more discoverable to other educators like yourself. You can also follow me on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, Threads, and Substack. All you need to do is look for Principal JO, and boom, there I am. This is where we can continue the conversations from the episodes that you have enjoyed. I am so thankful for you guys for listening. Until next time, always be 1% better.